So very good morning to everyone. So what I will do is I will record I shall record and upload it through the WhatsApp this PPT come video of hemodynamics chapter. So this hemodynamics chapter is one of the topic in the cardiovascular system. Hope in cardiovascular system sir has already discussed the various chapters like the functional anatomy of cardiovascular system, the various circulations, systemic and pulmonary circulation, properties of cardiac muscle, the four important properties of cardiac muscle, cardiac output, the most important cardiac cycle, the various phases of cardiac cycle. I have discussed about ECG, blood pressure. Sir has discussed about blood pressure, regulation of blood pressure, and so on. So now we move to the next important topic is hemodynamics. So what I will be doing here in hemodynamic is, so I'll record this 40-45 minutes video come PPT, and I will send this to your class representative around 9 o'clock. He will forward to all of you, where all of you should watch this video come PPT for 40-45 minutes, which will be followed by a quiz, MCQ quiz, where you should do this quiz and submit the response for your attendance purpose. So those who submit the quiz will get the attendance for the 9 to 10 class. So the hemodynamics, what is hemodynamics? So hemodynamics refers to the dynamics of blood flow, which describes the various law that governs the blood flow in the blood vessels. So basically it refers to the dynamics of blood flow, which describe the various laws that govern the blood flow in the blood vessels. So what are the objectives of this lecture? So there are various objectives which you will be studying, and various laws also you will be studying. First is the functional organization of the two types of circulation, the pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation, and structure of vascular system, means the vascular tree starting from arterioles, arterioles, veins, capillaries, and so on, and then various principles that govern the blood flow, like various laws you will be studying, like Poisson-Hegman's law, you will be doing this Ohm's law, Laplace law, and so on, and how much is the circulation time, what are the types of blood flow are there, two types of blood flow are there, laminar blood flow and turbulent blood flow, and how to measure the blood flow by various methods like Doppler flow meter, Fick's principle, which you have already studied in cardiac output measurement, venous occlusion plethysmography, and if you want to measure very specific blood flow like renal blood flow, they use this method, pH clearance method, and how the distribution of blood flow takes place. So what is hemodynamics? I already defined the dynamics of blood flow. So dynamics of blood flow refers, which is the study of blood flow and related forces in moving the blood through the circulatory system. So as you know, there are two types of circulations, systemic circulation and pulmonary circulation. So the basic thing which you know already is the heart possesses four chambers, two atria, two ventricles. The blood enters the left atria and left ventricle at a pressure near to zero. So then the left ventricle pumps the blood into systemic circulation via the main distributing artery, that is the aorta. Then aorta divides into arteries which undergo successive division, finally forming the arterioles. So these in turn subdivides into meta-arterioles that leads via the precapillary splinter to capillaries. So the capillaries distribute the blood finally to the venules and hence to the veins, which return the blood back to right atrium, right ventricle via this superior inferior vena cava. So generally, as you know, right atria, right ventricle receives the blood which has returned from the tissue via the veins, so which reaches the right atria at a pressure only slightly above zero. So the right ventricle pumps the blood into pulmonary circulation via the pulmonary arteries, which are like aorta, that divides into arterioles, meta-arterioles, and finally via the precapillary splinter into pulmonary capillaries. So the pulmonary capillaries generally are only one cell thick and which facilitate the exchange of gases across them. So basically what will happen here is the oxygenated blood is then collected from the pulmonary capillary by pulmonary veins and venules, and it is transported to the left atria, and from left atria it enters into left ventricle. So these are the two types of circulation, which I think sir has discussed in the first class: systemic circulation and pulmonary circulation, and how the these blood vessels branch out from the main in in systemic circulation, how the aorta, that is the main distributing artery, aorta, divides into arteries and then undergo successive small division, forming the arterioles subdivide into meta-arterioles and then lead to precapillary splinter to capillaries. So these capillaries distribute the blood finally to the venules and hence to the veins, which return the blood back to right atria and right ventricle. So what are the functions of circulation? So if you look at the functions of circulation, it is most important, needed for distribution of nutrients and also oxygen. Apart from that, it is also needed for collection of waste product and carbon dioxide. It has got some role in the temperature regulation of the body circulatory system. Apart from that, circulatory system aids in the distribution of hormones to the target tissue. Apart from that, distribution of antibodies and cell concerned with defense mechanism. Now with the COVID pandemic which is going on, we are very much worried about this antibodies. So any COVID infection or any infection, generally the body will respond and it will produce antibodies. So what we know from the COVID pandemic, whatever the antibodies that are produced, so they don't last for long time. So what some research they have predicted, these antibodies will last for 3 to 6 months. So here you can see here systemic circulation and pulmonary circulation. There are two circulations which are there, and you can see the circuit of systemic circulation and pulmonary circulation. So systemic circulation are, you can see here, inner part of systemic circulation are arranged parallelly. So they are parallel to each other. So you see here systemic circulation, how these inner subdivisions are arranged parallel to each other. Now after this we shall move to the next one, that is the structure of the blood vessels. So if you see the basic structure of blood vessels, so any blood vessels, if you see, basically it has got three layers from inner to outer. So there is a tunica intima, middle is tunica media, and the outer is the tunica externa. So tunica interna has got this endothelial and subendothelial layer, and there is also internal elastic lamella. The middle is the tunica media, the outer is the tunica externa. So where you can see the whole organization of the arterial system, the blood vessel systems are present here. The organization is such that you can see the large artery is the aorta. They form the artery, luminal artery. Artery forms the arterioles, arterioles to capillaries, capillaries to the venules, venules to the vein, and veins the blood enters via the vena cava. So arteries are generally what we call it a resistance vessel. The small arteries and arterioles are the site of peripheral vascular resistance, and the veins are the capacitance vessels. So that is, they can accommodate large amount of blood or have a large amount of reservoir in them, like so this I already told. The systemic vascular tree, the organization, the large one is the large elastic artery, which we also called Wind-Kessel vessel, that is your aorta, which is followed by large muscular artery, distribution artery, which forms arterioles. So this arterioles forms the meta-arterioles and capillaries. So from the capillaries it forms the venules to veins. Veins, there is an arteriovenous anastomosis. So first we will look into this artery, the large artery. The large artery, it is also called as Wind-Kessel vessel. Wind-Kessel vessel or distensible vessel. So these are the vessels which are highly elastic, and the example are aorta, pulmonary artery and their branches. As heart contracts intermittently at a rate of 40 to 80 beats per minute, therefore the pressure and the blood flow in the arteries and their large branches from the heart is pulsatile in nature. So this pulsatile ejection of the heart must be converted into steady flow through the capillaries to get the maximum gas exchange between the arteries and the tissue. So blood from the arteries, from the aorta it goes to the branching vessel, that is the arteries to the arterioles, to the capillaries to the veins, capillaries to the venules to the veins to the vena cava. So this is one more circulation that is parallelly running this systemic circulation, that we call it as lymphatic circulation. What are the different types of capillaries? Anybody knows? What are the different types of capillaries? So the capillaries are the exchange vessels. So these are the vessels which allow easy exchange of gases and nutrient substances across them. So they generally, capillaries consist of single layer of endothelial cells. Each ideal capillary is 500 micrometer in length and 1 micrometer in thickness and 6 micrometer in diameter with cross-sectional area of 30 mu cube. So there are different types of capillaries. First is the continuous capillaries. So they are the single layer of endothelial cells. So these capillary allows exchange of fluid and water soluble substances within interstitial fluid by diffusion mechanism. Second is fenestrated capillaries. Here a fenestration or pore is seen in the intracellular opening, which serve as a function for rapid and large transaction of fluid. Where are the sites of these fenestrated capillaries? They are present in the renal glomeruli, vasa recta of the eye, exocrine endocrine glands, choroid plexus and interstitial villi. So these are the location of fenestrated capillaries. The last is the sinusoidal capillaries. So these capillaries possess a thin endothelial layer which has a large gap between the individual cells. So hence it allows the gas exchange. It allows easy exchange of larger protein molecules, especially in RBC, spleen, bone marrow, liver and spleen. So there are three types of capillaries. Continuous capillaries. Second one is fenestrated capillary. The third is the sinusoids. So here in the dynamics of blood flow, the most important is the flow cross-sectional area relationship. So it is the relationship between the average velocity of blood flow to the total cross-sectional area of vascular circuit. The increase in the total cross-sectional area of the blood vessels decreases the velocity of blood flow. What you can see here, the relationship between cross-sectional area and the velocity of blood flow. When you increase the total cross-sectional area, the velocity of blood flow decreases. What you can see here evident from the cross-sectional area of capillaries is very large, 4500, whereas the velocity of blood flow is 0.2 millimeters per second. So there are one more type of circulation, what you call it as microcirculation. So what is this microcirculation? So microcirculation is formed by terminal arterioles, capillaries and venules which drain the capillary blood. So the blood vessels on the arteriolar side of the microcirculation are arterioles and are efferently innervated, and they are effectively innervated. So the most cells are lined by flattened endothelial cells surrounded by contractile cells. Like, what is the function of microcirculation? So they are, the chief function is to deliver the oxygen and nutrient to the tissue and removal of carbon dioxide. Number 2, involved in the regulation of blood flow and tissue perfusion, which in turn affects the blood pressure. Next is the exchange, capillary exchange. So capillary exchange is generally a vasomotor action which is a slow and intermittent. So there are various types of luminal exchange. Number one, that takes place in capillary diffusion through membrane. So lipid soluble substances diffuse very easily through the membrane. Number two, movement through intracellular cleft. They are water soluble substances. Number three, how it will diffuse. Third type is the basement membrane. Now the movement through fenestration. Movements through fenestration. Number four, transport via the vesicles. So these are the four modes of transport that is seen in capillary exchange: diffusion through membrane, movements through intracellular cleft, movements through fenestration, and transportation via vesicles are. Next is the venules and the veins. Venules and the veins. So veins are generally the capillary unite and form the venules. So the venules converge and forms the veins. So the veins generally they don't have the elastic number. Large veins has got large lumen and it has got valves, and there is also sinuses related to these veins. And inside these blood vessels there will be a smooth muscle, what you call it as vascular smooth muscle. So they are present in all segment of vascular tree, especially vein casal vessel, spiral arterioles and circulatory system. So there are two types of smooth muscle, single unit and multi-unit. So what are the general principles that governs the blood flow? Here we saw various relationship you need to know. One relationship is the flow cross-sectional relationship, which we have seen based on the table. So it's a relationship between the average velocity of blood flow to the total cross-sectional area, and this relationship is inversely proportional. So when cross-sectional area is increased or when cross-sectional area is decreased, the average velocity of blood flow increases. The increase in the total cross-sectional area will decrease the average velocity of blood flow. And the second relationship is most important relationship between the blood flow, pressure and resistance. So for that there is a formula, what we call it as Poiseuille-Hegmans mathematical expression. So the blood flow in the vessels are affected by pressure gradient and number two, vascular resistance. These are two important factors. What is this Poiseuille-Hegmans formula? So this Poiseuille-Hegmans formula, it is nothing but this pressure, flow pressure resistance relationship. So in the systemic circulation, the relationship among the amount of blood flow per unit time, that is the pressure head at the two end of the arteriolar vessel is P1 minus P2 and the resistance is R, is given by formula. The blood flow is equal to P1 minus P2 divided by the resistance. Thus the amount of blood flow per unit time in any portion of the vascular system is what we call it as effective perfusion pressure. So from this we calculate a formula, what we call it as R is equal to P1 minus P2 divided by Q. So therefore the unit of this peripheral resistance in CVS is millimeters of mercury divided by uh, millimeters of mercury by ml per second. So what is the formula ultimately for this Poisson-Hegmans formula? So what is this Poisson-Hegman formula? Explain the relationship between the flow of fluid in a long narrow tube, between the radius of the tube and the viscosity. So with removing all this pressure, so what is the formula, final formula of this 8 mu L by pi r cube, 8 mu L by pi r cube. So that is the formula for this Poisson-Hegmans equation. The flow is equal to 8 mu L by resistance. What is the important point to remind here is Poisson-Hegmans formula is valid for a straight rigid tube with Newton's fluid movements on the tube. It is not applicable to the blood flow in vasomotor system, as blood vessels are not rigid and the blood is not Newton's fluid. So one thing you need to know, after putting all that values, you need to know the formula for this Poisson-Hegmans law, which you should know it. Why I am emphasizing this is Poisson-Hegmans formula is very important from exam point of view. So this is a very important from the exam point of view, which is the flow, pressure and resistance relationship. So resistance is equal to 8 mu L by pi r cube. So Poisson-Hegmans states R is equal to 8 mu L by pi r cube, where F is the flow, is the pressure difference, R is the radius, theta is the viscosity, L is the length of the blood vessels. So what is the formula? R is equal to, resistance is equal to 8 mu L by pi r cube. So blood flow is equal to pressure difference pi r cube by 8 mu L, as Q is equal to pressure difference into 1 by R. So now we need to make it R. What is R? So R is, this is the formula for Poisson. R is equal to 8 mu L by pi r cube. So which I already told what is the abbreviation of mu, L and so on. Very important from exam point of view. So this is the relationship between the flow, pressure, resistance. Flow, pressure, resistance. Of course, the resistance of blood flow is determined by two terms. One is the radius, the other one is the viscosity of blood flow. So this is the Poisson-Hegmans law. what will happen to the radius of the blood vessels? So radius in the vessel 2, so 2 times that of 1. So what will happen to the resistance in the vessel 2? So 1 by 16th that of vessel 1, 16 times that of vessel 1. So the flow of the vessel, like, so that's the formula you need to apply, 8 mu L by pi r cube. What is the flow pressure relationship? Flow pressure relationship, which I already told, the flow so pressure flow relationship, like, so systemic and the pulmonary. So systemic is a high pressure system and the flow also very high. Pulmonary is low pressure system and the flow is very much low. So there is one more entity called as critical closing pressure. So what is critical closing pressure? So critical closing pressure, it is the pressure at which the blood vessels collapse, its lumen closes and the blood flow ceases. That is called as critical closing pressure. So what is the value of critical closing pressure? Whole blood is 20 millimeters of mercury, plasma is 5 to 10 millimeters of mercury. On sympathetic stimulation, the critical closing pressure will become 60. On removal of sympathetic stimulation, the pressure becomes 0 millimeters of mercury. Critical closing pressure. Next, we shall look into one more law, what we call it as Laplace law. So this Laplace law you will be studying in many chapters, in respiratory system also, in hemodynamics also, in the urinary bladder also. It's a relationship between distending pressure and the tension on the walls in a hollow viscous tube. It states that distending pressure in a distendable hollow viscous is equal to the equilibrium to the tension in the walls divided by 2 principal radius of curvature of viscous. So based on that, P is equal to 2T by R. So that is the Laplace law. Smaller the radius of the blood vessel, lesser is the tension in the walls of necessary to balance the distending pressure. So that is why the thin walled and dedicated capillaries are less prone to rupture. So generally dilated heart has to do more work than the non-dilated heart. So because when the radius of the cardiac chamber is increased, the greater tension must be developed in myocardium to produce any at any given pressure. Like, so P is equal to 2T by R. So in case of sphere, both the side radius is same, so P is equal to 2T by R. So in case of cylinder, one radius is indefinite, P is equal to T by R. Like, so what is Laplace law? P is equal to 2T by R. What is the applied aspect? We have seen in dilated heart. So this Laplace law will be applied in the lungs, especially the role of surfactant. Urinary bladder Laplace law is there, stomach Laplace law is there, and capillaries. So capillaries lesser the radius, greater is the tension on wall required to balance the descending pressure. Next is the flow relation resistance relationship. So the conductance, the measure of blood flow through vessel at a given pressure difference. So at a given pressure difference. So P is equal to Q. So that is what we call it as Poisson-Segment's law. So 8 pi r cube by 8 mu L, like. So resistance is the reciprocal of conductance. R is equal to 1 by C. So as a result, R is equal to 8 mu L by pi r cube. So this is a very important formula which you need to know, Poisson-Segment's formula. So in the simple form of this is Q is equal to pressure difference divided by resistance, whereas resistance is equal to pressure difference divided by blood flow. R is the unit and it is expressed R units. What is the unit for this peripheral resistance is PRU. PRU. So what are the resistance factors? Generally this is determined by, so resistance to blood flow is determined by two important factors. One is the radius of the blood vessels and the velocity of blood. What are the factors that affects the viscosity, not velocity, viscosity of blood? So viscosity of blood is inversely proportional to the temperature and flow rate, and whereas the viscosity of blood is directly proportional to the hematocrit value, concentration of plasma protein and diameter of blood vessels. So total peripheral resistance at rest in aorta is 100 mm of mercury, whereas the total peripheral resistance in inferior vena cava is 0 mm of mercury. So at rest total peripheral resistance is 1 mm mercury per ml per second, 1 PRU. So when at maximum vasoconstriction TPR, total peripheral resistance becomes 4 PRU. Whenever inside the body it is having maximum vasodilatation, the total peripheral resistance value becomes 0.2 PRU. Whereas the pulmonary vascular resistance, it is 0.1 to 0.2 PRU. So what are the factors affecting resistance to blood flow? One is the length of the vessel. Generally this length will not change, that is constant. The most important factor is the radius of the blood vessels. So the flow is proportional to the fourth power of the radius. So small change in the caliber in the blood vessels causes a marked change in the flow. At constant pressure 100 mm of mercury, change in the radius will change the flow rate. 1 mm is equal to 1 mm per second, not much change. If there is a change in the radius of 2 mm, how much the flow rate it becomes? 16 times, 16 ml per minute. Or if you change to 4 mm, the flow rate becomes 256 millimeters per minute, right? ml per minute, 256 ml per minute. So the next important factor is the viscosity. First is the length. So generally the length of the blood vessel will not change throughout the life, it will be constant. Second is the radius. So radius, what will happen, like, so here the blood flow is proportional to the fourth power of the radius. So marked change in the radius, it will affect the change. So it will cause a marked change in the blood flow. The next is the viscosity. So viscosity of the blood, according to the Newton, it is the inertia or friction to backflow, inertia to flow, or the lack of slipperiness. So it is expressed in unit poise. So the plasma has got 1.2 cp the blood has got 3 cp, like that is the viscosity. So viscosity is generally inversely proportional to the temperature, inversely proportional to the flow rate, whereas it is directly proportional to the hematocrit, concentration of plasma protein, and detection of diameter of blood vessels. What are the factors affecting viscosity? One is what we call it as hematocrit. Increased PCV will increase the viscosity, and of course it will decrease the flow. The next factor is the velocity gradient, so that, or the shear rate. So increasing the velocity gradient will decrease the viscosity, and of course it will decrease the flow. So temperature, cooling will increase the viscosity. So diameter of the blood vessels. So for that there is one effect. So the viscosity change per unit change in PCV is much less in small than large vessel due to the plasma skimming. So the RBC moves in center where plasma moves in periphery. We call it this mechanism as plasma skimming. So we call it this as plasma skimming. Like so, in which are the conditions where blood viscosity will be very high? Severe polycythemia, abnormal shape of RBC, especially congenital spherocytosis, whenever there is abnormal high level of immunoglobulins, low body temperature. Summarize, the viscosity is inversely proportional to the flow rate and temperature. It is directly proportional to the Paxil volume, plasma proteins and diameter. So what is the applied aspect? The peripheral resistance is generally increased in the conditions, especially old age, atherosclerosis, myxedema. Peripheral resistance is decreased in beriberi, vitamin B12 deficiency, hyperthyroidism and anemia. So one thing you need to know, if you know blood pressure. So blood pressure is the pressure exerted, lateral pressure exerted by the moving column of blood on the arterial walls. So blood pressure is equal to cardiac output times total peripheral resistance. Any change in the cardiac output will reflect systolic blood pressure. Any change in the total peripheral resistance, it will affect the diastolic blood pressure. So generally what will happen, if total peripheral resistance increases, your diastolic blood pressure will increase. Like the velocity of blood flow, it is the rate of the blood flow through a given vessel. So that is nothing but the displacement per unit time in centimeter per second. So the blood flow is the volume of blood flowing in a given vessel in a given interval of time. That is flow per unit time, centimeter cube per second. So velocity and cross-sectional area relationship. So the velocity and cross-sectional area relationship, like so it is a relationship between average velocity of blood flow and total cross-sectional area of the vessel. So the increase in the total cross-sectional area of blood vessels, it will decrease the average velocity of blood flow. It's inversely related. So velocity and pressure relationship. So this we will be studying in the next class with the help of this one Bernoulli's principle. So I will stop now and I will continue in the next class about this next hemodynamics. So generally hemodynamics, whatever is more of dry thing, where you need to memorize, you need to read once or twice and then you need to memorize it. But from exam point of view, generally hemodynamics, they don't ask essay question. If they ask also, the probable questions in hemodynamics generally are: what are the methods of measurement of blood flow? What is the difference between laminar and turbulent blood flow? What is Reynolds number, which you will be studying in turbulent blood flow? The most important is the Poiseuille-Hegmans formula, which we have studied in detail, like so this is the resistance is equal to 8 mu L by pi R cube. So that is the Poiseuille-Hegmans formula. The next is the plasma skimming effect. So plasma skimming effect. So this is also quite important thing which you need to know, the plasma skimming effect. What is plasma skimming effect generally? In small vessels, the RBCs are more in central and the cell free plasma is at the periphery. So the net change in the viscosity when there is change in hematocrit is less in the body than in vitro. So only large change in viscosity, like in polycythemia, may affect the peripheral resistance. So plasma skimming is responsible for low hematocrit in capillary blood, which is less than the venous blood. Important things. Next is the critical closing pressure. So this is also important short notes question. Critical closing pressure, it's a pressure at which the blood flow stops and the vessel collapses. So for various condition, the critical closing pressure also varies. Like whole blood, the critical closing pressure is 20. For plasma it is 10. Sympathetic stimulation is 50 to 60. Sympathetic inhibition is 0. Like so critical closing pressure of blood is more than the plasma, because of blood is more than that of the plasma, because the blood has got more RBCs and cell. Therefore more critical closing is needed to pass through the capillary of diameter of 5 micrometer and to maintain patency of vessel wall. So these are the things which we have studied for today. So today's class is basically, as I told, Poiseuille-Hegmans formula, plasma skimming effect, critical closing pressure, what are Wind-Kessel vessels, law of Laplace and its application in human physiology. So all this you have studied, and now I will stop this class. Now I will post a quiz of 5 minutes where there will be 5 questions where everyone needs to attempt by 9:55 or 10 o'clock max. At 10 o'clock I will withdraw that quiz. So those who have attempted by 10 will get the attendance. Like so, even that link also I will share around 9:45. Like so, now you have time of 45 to 50 minutes to go through this PowerPoint slide with video. Still, if you have any doubts, you can discuss with me in WhatsApp. So there is one more class of hemodynamics like in the next class. Thank you very much.